The first murder in human history probably didn't happen in a dark alley. There were no cities, no streets, no witnesses. It happened around a campfire, surrounded by people who trusted each other. And by sunrise, one of them was dead. Somewhere in a valley whose name has been forgotten for hundreds of thousands of years, the first light of morning slowly reaches a small human camp. The fire from the night before is dying. Children are still asleep. A few hunters are already awake, preparing to leave. Then, someone notices a body. At first, nobody runs toward it. They simply stare. One by one, the rest of the tribe gathers in complete silence. The man lying on the ground hunted beside them yesterday. He laughed around the fire. He shared food with them. Now he's dead. Someone kneels beside him. His skull is crushed, not torn apart, not bitten, crushed. The hunters immediately scan the trees. A wolf? No. A bear? The ground tells a different story. There are no signs of a struggle with an animal. No tracks leading away into the forest. Only frightened faces, looking at one another. And for what might be the first time in human history, a terrifying possibility enters someone's mind. What if one of us did this? Today, that question seems almost ordinary. If someone is murdered, police arrive. Evidence is collected. Suspects are questioned. A trial begins. But imagine asking that same question before any of those ideas even existed. Before cities, before kings, before laws, before anyone had ever written down the words right or wrong. If one human deliberately killed another, what exactly had happened? Was it murder? Or was it simply another act of survival in a world that had never heard the word crime? That question has haunted humanity for thousands of years. And strangely enough, the answer doesn't begin inside a courtroom. It begins inside a cave. For decades, archaeologists searched for clues hidden deep beneath the earth. Most discoveries revealed how our ancestors lived. Some showed how they hunted. Others revealed what they ate. But one discovery revealed something far darker. Hidden inside a cave in northern Spain was a collection of ancient human bones unlike anything researchers had ever seen. The place is called Cima de los Huesos, the Pit of Bones. The name alone sounds like something from a horror story. More than 20 ancient humans had ended up at the bottom of this dark vertical chamber over 400,000 years ago. Nobody knew exactly why. It took years just to recover their remains. Then came one skull, broken into hundreds of tiny pieces. Researchers spent years carefully putting it back together, fragment by fragment, almost like solving a giant prehistoric puzzle. At first, nothing seemed unusual, until someone noticed two small holes above the left eye. Two holes, almost perfectly alike. That shouldn't happen by accident, and that tiny detail would force scientists to ask a question nobody expected. Were they looking at humanity's oldest murder? For a long time, the simplest explanation seemed like the correct one. The cave had a vertical shaft nearly 13 meters deep. If someone slipped, the fall alone could easily shatter a skull. Case closed, or so everyone thought. But science has a habit of ruining simple answers. Years after the skull was reconstructed, forensic experts decided to look closer, not with their eyes, but with technology. Using high-resolution CT scans, they recreated every crack, every fracture, every impact hidden inside the bone. What they found changed the entire story. The two wounds weren't random. They weren't created by bouncing off rocks during a fall. Each fracture had almost the exact same shape, the same size, the same angle, the same force. Whoever caused the first blow raised the weapon and then struck again. Only seconds later. A fall doesn't do that. Gravity doesn't stop. Aim and hit twice. A person does. Imagine the moment. No witnesses, no written records, no names. Just two human beings standing somewhere in prehistoric Europe over 400,000 years ago. An argument? Jealousy? Fear? We'll never know. One of them lifts a heavy object, a stone, a wooden club, something hard enough to crush bone. The first strike sends the victim collapsing to the ground, but it isn't enough. The attacker swings again. This time, there is no chance of getting back up. For hundreds of thousands of years, that moment stayed buried beneath layers of earth, completely forgotten, until modern humans uncovered it. Researchers now refer to this skull as Cranium 17. To date, it remains one of the oldest and strongest pieces of evidence that one human intentionally killed another. But something about this discovery raises an even stranger question. If humans were capable of killing each other hundreds of thousands of years ago, why don't we find evidence of entire tribes wiping each other out? Why didn't humanity destroy itself before civilization even began? The answer may have nothing to do with weapons, and everything to do with trust. And yet, for thousands of years, people searched for another explanation, not buried in caves, but written into one of the oldest stories ever told, a story about two brothers and the first murder humanity would never forget. Long before archaeologists uncovered cranium-17, long before anyone knew what a CT scan was, people were already trying to answer the same terrifying question. Why would one human kill another? Not with science, with stories. Across thousands of years, one story survived more than almost any other. It begins with two brothers, Cain and Abel. They grow up together, work the same land, pray to the same God. One day they each bring an offering. Abel's is accepted, Cain's is not. The Bible never says exactly what Cain was thinking as he walked beside his brother into an empty field. Maybe he was angry, maybe humiliated, maybe jealous, or maybe all three. Then, only one brother walked home. Whether you believe this story is sacred history or a religious tradition, that's not what makes it remarkable. Its power comes from something much deeper. The person most likely to kill you was someone who already knew your name. Back in that forgotten valley, the frightened tribe still has no answer. They don't know who struck the fatal blow. Maybe they never will. But they know something has changed forever. Yesterday, the greatest danger came from hungry animals. Today, it might be standing beside them. And once that possibility enters the human mind, everything changes. People begin watching each other more carefully. Trust becomes fragile. Suspicion appears. Soon, every tribe faces the same problem. What do you do when the person who breaks the rules is one of your own? For thousands of years, there was no courtroom to answer that question. No judge, no written law, only the tribe. Yet, as humanity grew, something stopped working. A tribe of 20 people can survive on memory. A city of 20,000 cannot. Strangers don't know who they can trust. And when trust disappears, rules have to take its place. That realization would change human history forever. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the world's earliest legal codes appeared, the Code of Ur-Nammu. Among its laws was one sentence that changed history forever. If a man commits murder, that man shall be put to death. But here's something worth thinking about. The law didn't invent murder. Murder was already ancient, older than farming, older than writing, older than civilization itself. What the law invented was accountability. For the first time, society wasn't simply asking, "Who did this?" It was asking something even more important. What should happen next? Now go back to where this story began. A forgotten valley, a silent tribe, a man lying dead beside the fire. Nothing about that moment looked important. No one standing there could have imagined that tens of thousands of years later, entire nations would be built around solving the same problem they had just discovered. How do you live together if you can't trust each other? Maybe that's why this mystery has never really disappeared. Yet every crime we investigate still begins with the same question those frightened hunters silently asked hundreds of thousands of years ago. Who did this? And maybe the first crime in human history wasn't the first murder. Maybe it happened a moment earlier, the moment one human looked at another, someone they hunted with, someone they trusted, and decided that trust no longer mattered. Because civilizations aren't built on stone. They aren't built on laws. They aren't even built on power. They're built on millions of invisible promises people make to one another every single day. Break enough of those promises, and no civilization can survive. So here's one final question. If trust is the foundation of every society we've ever built, what would happen the day people stop believing in it?